adding to the
Yes.
problem with the wolf dog breeding is definitely an issue.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of something, I'll just really quick I'll touch on because it is controversial and there's a lot of people who won't agree with me on this, but that is something that I think needs to be banned. I think the breeding of wolf dogs needs to be banned because we have seen so many horrific cases and them getting mistreated, and sometimes it's not even because the person is an animal abuser, it's because they quite simply don't know how else to contain them. And
Yeah.
if they get out, then they could get shot, they could get euthanized. So just seeing that they have to live their lives in one enclosure for the rest of their lives, even with us, they have amazing care. And at so many other sanctuaries, they do have amazing care. But think about how small their worlds are. They
Yeah.
they don't get to ever leave. So I just think most of these animals are getting abused, neglected, tortured, just in so many ways that is one thing we're going to try to tackle, is kind of getting like a federal ban on wolf
Yeah.
dog breeding, because most of the breeders are not great people, unfortunately, and it is about money. So that's definitely a big aspect as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe you want to, because I know you have, how many wolf dogs do you have in your care
So
right
we
now?
we have 21.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
we have
maybe you can
21,
go
yes.
into some of their individual stories.
Yeah,
Obviously not all
absolutely.
27, but maybe like
Yeah.
yeah, or 21,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
20.
yeah. No, no worries. Yeah, I mean, so we do have a couple that didn't necessarily come from horrible situations, but the majority of them have come from abuse, or neglect. We have one, his name is Titan, and he had one of the worst abuse stories I've ever seen. And I bring him up because he really changed my life. So we really helped each other, and he was basically with this breeder. Him and his father were from a breeder in Stockton, California, who was breeding them for money. And he had them in horrible, horrible conditions. They were all just chained to poles with really, really tight wire collars. So some of their skin had actually started to grow over that. And unfortunately, that's not the first time we've seen that. I've heard other
Oh,
stories like this, and I've seen this multiple times. But that wasn't even the worst part of it. So, I mean, he never got to leave this pole. He was walking around the pole his whole life, and finally, someone had reported animal abuse. It was one of the guy's neighbors, because Titan's mother had acid thrown on her. So she
oh,
literally had, her whole side was burned, and luckily she ended up getting rescued and she went to another sanctuary.
oh,
But that's why the guy got reported, because they were aware of this incident. I think a neighbor had seen it. So we ended up rescuing Titan and his father. And when we pulled up to pick them up, they were still at the guy's, house. The guy was literally beating him, like was hitting him with a metal pole when we pulled up, and we were just two
oh,
small girls. So like, what do you do? So we did report the guy, we reported him to animal control, to the police. He had already been reported, but we reported that specific incident. Nothing ever happened. And this happens a lot. Sometimes you do everything you can and there's no follow up. I mean, at the time, Stockton was experiencing a lot of crime against people, so I know there's certain things that maybe take seniority, but luckily the guy at least, was not able to have any more animals anymore. So that was good.
yeah.
But he didn't, have to pay for what he did to these animals. And Titan and his dad, who he passed away under our care because he was very old and he had cancer, but luckily he did get to live 1 year of happiness with us. But they both had to have their collars surgically removed. They both walked in circles for a long time before they realized they could actually run. And
Wow.
Titan had to be shaved, like literally both of his sides had to get shaved because he had so many wounds and thorns, wounds from abuse, from getting hit. It was literally out of a horror movie. And so
Wow.
it's just, you see this, and the guy had been doing this for quite some time, and he sold them and his reasoning, when we were yelling at him to stop, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just trying to make sure he's good for you guys, like for you guys to take him." And he was
Wow.
like, yeah, this is my, this is how I have to feed my family. So it's just, you see things like that. And at the time I was going through my own mental health kind of issues. And so just taking care of Titan and helping him get to a good place, it really did save my life, honestly. Because at that moment you realize like there's something bigger than you, and you this animal needs you,
Yeah.
and this animal's been suffering for years. So he did heal, and I never thought, I remember there was a long time where I thought we're never going to be able to walk him because he's been so traumatized from being chained to a pole. But when we rescued this other female who was a higher content wolf dog, he totally changed. Like he fell in love. There's no it sounds like a Disney movie, and it really is, because he then saw her getting leashed and he got jealous and excited. He didn't want to be without her. So we walk them every single day now, and they're just the cutest couple. They're lovebirds. And he
Oh,
never would have opened up, if it wasn't for her and if it wasn't for our staff and all of our girls just really, nurturing him every single day. But it's not easy. I mean, a wolf dog too, I think they're a lot smarter than dogs, because
yeah.
they're so intuitive, and it is harder to earn their trust. So the fact that he was able to open up after this abuse, and that's just one example. So sorry, I could talk about that forever, but that's just one
No, that's
example. We
great.
have multiple who come from similar situations.
Yeah, that's so I love his story. I love that he found love too and is now like thriving and living such a beautiful life. And